everybody? It is Mr. Drew here to welcome you to another episode of the Andrew Glowczewski Experience. This is going to be episode 144. Uh, and yeah, man, I'm going to switch up. I went back, I sat down, I thought about it. I thought about what I needed to do, what I wanted to do, what set me out on doing this pilot study and diver study. And I could have gone ahead and kept up with the military theme, and I may go back to it. I mean, on the last stream, I did say I would go back to it just because I have a lot more military things coming up as far as like the story that I'm working on and those designs. So I may just do it on a need to work on basis rather than get ahead of myself. All of this currently is for right now and everything that I have going on with the story that I'm trying to work on right now, as far as like, you know, this character goes, this character goes, this character, like everything that I'm working on, this character, all of it relates back, this character, all of it relates back to this map. And in the grand scheme of what I'm doing here, working on environments, characters, props, and everything like that, according to the maps that I'm working on, the environments that I'm working on, I wanted to just keep to that. And that's what I mean about getting ahead of myself. I don't want to do more military things just because I'm going to later on down the line, but rather I'm going to just do some stuff and have it help me out in the now. So with that said, and you know, doing the pilot and the diver studies recently, I wanted to like switch gears heavy and do some old school, I'm calling it Girdle study. Frank Frazetta, one of, you know, artists, everyone loves him, we all love him, he's great. And uh, in order, just like I was drawing all these things to try to understand like where all the straps and everything is going, where's the layout, try to find something, try to find a pattern so that way I can apply it and use it. Here, let me do something. Give me a second. Turn that down, turn that on, keep that the way it is. And yeah, I have a podcast playing in the background. I have it paused, but anytime I pause something too long, I lose it, so I don't want to lose it, so I'm just going to let it play on silence. And all right. So yeah, I'm gonna switch things heavy. I got a Frank Frazetta book in front of me, and just a random one. I just picked one. I think it's an art gallery book or a book that came out in the like a New York art gallery maybe. It's sorry. It's this book here doesn't have a title on it. Let's see. The Alexander Gallery. Frank Frazetta. I believe it's a New York art gallery, and it might have been just like a book that kind of encapsulates everything that must have been on display there. And it's a book that dives into his history. It's not just like all the glorious paintings that we know him for, but everything going back to like when he was a kid doing small pulp comics to all the commission work that he did for like movies and things, and then even like comic books that he worked on, and then, you know, and then it gets into his oil painting. So it kind of covers the history, and yeah, man, it's a pretty cool book. So, you know, to kind of show where the guy was and where he ended up being. So I'm just gonna flip through it and try to basically just draw waistlines. Waistlines that actually have clothing on them. So that's why I'm calling this a girdle study. I'm gonna have to adjust this camera and bring it back because I had it set up so that it would work on the furthest page over here. So yeah, let me bring it back over to the right so I can get back to working on this page. And yeah, man, I'm just gonna jump into it. Don't really have any crazy plans. It's just like what I've been doing. which is just kind of looking and drawing until I learn something. So yeah, let's just get into it. So again, the reason why I want to do this is just because is just because like one, obviously, like Frank Frazetta is like great and everything like that, and we all love his work. So every artist usually studies him from time to time, and I've been looking at his stuff for a long time, looking at his art and everything, but I haven't actually tried to like draw it one for one. Um, I just kind of look, and whatever I memorize or keep in my head, I use it. And this will be the first time that I actually uh, like draw directly from it. And it is what it is, man. Like I don't I don't prefer to work like that. You know, I'd rather just be doing, especially on like streaming and stuff like that. I'd prefer to just be doing my own stuff. But after looking through this book one time, I just flipped through all the pages real quick to make sure there was like enough references here. Uh, I was like, you know what? Let me go through it. It didn't look like there was anything too exciting, but it was like maybe I can at least kind of grab some ideas and kind of immortalize them in my memory for as long as my memory lasts, as good as it is. Um, so yeah, man, it's just because the look that he has, especially when it comes to um like a lot of the things that he draws, they're all like half naked anyways, but when they do have clothes on, it's like the clothes still look good. You know what I mean? Even when they're like half naked barbarians and things like that. In this book, especially, there's like a whole lot of nudity in it. Um, it's like all his old sketches, he was really working on a whole lot of anatomy, it seems like, and really getting good at that. So, it kind of makes sense that he just drew a whole bunch of naked people. It was funny, as I was looking at that, and I was kind of reminiscing on my old college days and when I was doing like life drawing and things like that. And I remember one time I was drawing Ken Masters from Street Fighter, and I was drawing him doing a hurricane kick, but I drew him completely nude, just to get because I was drawing like naked people all the time in those days, you know, for anatomy class, which is one of my favorite classes. And yeah, I had drawn Ken Masters doing the whatever that word is. You know what word I'm talking about. Whatever the long hurricane kick move whatever it's called, however you pronounce that. He was doing that move, not the Hadouken, not the Shoryuken, but the other one. He was doing that move in the drawing that I was doing. I just drew him with no clothes, and I remember a kid coming up to me, someone who I actually like a fellow student who I actually liked and respected, and he had cool work, and I was like, all right, like he's checking me out for a second to be like, what you working on? And then I showed him, and as soon as he saw what what I was working on, I don't know if that guy ever talked to me again. Like he just looked at me sideways, like you're drawing Ken doing the hurricane kick naked. Like what's wrong with you? It's like you know what I mean, with his junk all hanging out. It was just like yeah, it's like whatever. Me personally, um, I just never. How do you how do I put it? Like the Puritan roots of this country of America is strong. And I think it's so strong that people don't even realize the reason why, you know, they're so against nudity. And it's, and covering up your junk and covering up genitals and hide them. And, oh, sex is scary and all this other stuff, like within this country, especially. It's just because, like, it's one of the founding principles of the country, of the nation, and it's so antiquated, and it's never been like challenged because I don't know. I mean, as soon as you bring kids into the argument, then it's like, oh, okay, it's for the kids, and it's like, okay, I guess like we're gonna lose this argument because kids. But then, yeah, it's just weird. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that even in college, when we're all adults and we're not kids anymore, that and here we are doing life drawing naked people. So like I know that people that like my fellow classmates are used to seeing a nude body, never knew what their opinion was of it, but we were all drawing it just the same. So I didn't think that if I like showed this guy like, oh, like I'm just doing some life drawing here or like some study or whatever it was, something to help me understand what's going on, just because I'm an animation study, and I don't know, didn't expect that reaction. It was quite crazy. It was a strong reaction that kid had, and it was kind of disappointing because I was like, oh man, I liked you. You were one of the good ones, and then here you are looking at me sideways, judging me because I'm pushing my anatomy study, you know, to the limit, as Brody Stevens would say. I pushed it to the limit, Joe. uh, and going through this book now, half of it is like nudes. Half of it is nudes, and it's not even women. It's mostly dudes, and mostly a bunch of nude men, and it kind of makes sense if he's drawing like barbarians and things like that. Like there's plenty of nude women in here as well. Like anyone who's familiar with Frazetta's work. Um, there's plenty of that. But in these early days, he was drawing a bunch of nude guys. But I'm not here to draw that. I'm here to study, the actual like loincloth or something, And honestly, after flipping through this book, I didn't really find what I was looking for, but maybe I'll find it like while I'm drawing, trying to break down uh, what he's done. And the way this helps me out is because I have barbarians in my stuff, and I want to throw like furs on them and loincloths on them and things like that. But I don't really understand how it works because we don't wear stuff like that anymore. Like we wear underwear for sure today, nowadays. We got everything from tighty whities to boxers to boxer briefs to long johns to we have all sorts of underwear for sure. Um, Sports bras to lingerie bras. Um, but I don't, and I understand how the underwear technology, if you want to call it that, works in today's standards, you know. But I don't really quite understand how it works, or how it worked for like cavemen. When you watch those old school, uh, holy shit, I'm not even listening to this podcast anymore because I'm talking, which is good, man. I'd rather be talking than playing some bullshit in the background. But I was actually enjoying this. So let me just rewind this all the way, and then I'll just fast forward to whatever part I left off at once I'm done spieling over here. So yeah, I don't know how the old caveman underwear used to work. Like what was the rudimentary technology? I even bought a book, a digital book. Holy shit, why is it so loud? Whatever. So I even bought a book recently about shoes, like the history of shoes, and like, how did those come about? Like, what were the old school shoes? How did they figure it out? What's going on? And it goes all the way back from like sandals and Egyptian days to the old European days to clogs, things like that. And, you know, I don't know if I'll find like an underwear book like that, but I really don't need to find an underwear book. I just, instead of doing that and buying another book, you know, I have all these Frazetta art books that you know, that I look through, and it's like, why not start like actually drawing from them and at least using them as a study? So even with this one that I just drew right now, what I'm kind of seeing, at least what I want to believe I'm seeing, is like there's a string, or maybe it's like he's wearing a fur. So you can imagine, okay, killed an animal, skinned it, and he's wearing the fur over, you know what I mean? And it's covering his junk. I don't know if it's actually tied between his legs or not. It doesn't look like it is since it's just hanging. And also in the back, it's hanging. Like you could see it kind of cuts through. So it's hanging low on this side, hanging low on that side. So it's like covering his butt and covering his crotch. I don't know if it ties underneath, in the grundle area or whatever you want to call it. The place where they say the Lord zipped you up. Um, so I don't know what's going on in there, but what I think is like he just kind of threw this on, wrapped it around, and then he has like a string where he got the technology for a string. I have no idea. You know what I mean? To tie it around, and obviously since we don't see like any rope or tie, it's like a small string. Who knows if they had like rubber, if they were like getting rubber off of trees at that point. Um, I guess in this reference, it's kind of like a Native American holding an axe, and the axe head is tied to the handle. So yeah, maybe they had rubber, so maybe it's just like a rubber string, and he tied it around like a rubber band. Zip, zip. So he throws the fur on, throws the string on, ties a knot on the string, and then just lets the top half hang over. So like this waistline bit of fur, you could see how it's kind of directional. Maybe this is just like the hangover from like the waistline string. So the string is tying up this thing, and then it's just his hips that are holding the string on and keeping this whole thing together from falling. Um, so that's what I see. I mean, but I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, so this is just gonna be a study on like girdles and waistlines, and I have what 12 slots on this page, so I don't want to do a bunch of furs all through them. But we'll see. If Frazetta figured something out, maybe I will. So, and yeah, I am. This is gonna be mainly focused on like men, just because like I could draw underwear on women. Like I could draw a string on women super easy, but there are some women sketches, and you know I'll probably end up drawing some of those too, just because. You see, like he has like the oblique here, and then there's like a belt of some sort going on, and then just like some chaps. It's like opened on the side here, and he's not wearing anything underneath, so this is like exposed skin. Here's a belt. Here's some chaps and some fold over. And it looks like they're bolted in or something. And then he has like this flop over. And see, this is where it's weird. See, because he has this flop over. But the flop over is also on the back side. So it's like this is a second item that's not attached to this pants or chaps or whatever they are, whatever you want to call them here. Alright, so it kind of crisscrosses at the center. And a lot of this is to study fabric and just kind of the construction of clothing. Because I'm always wondering, like in these super dope barbarian pictures that you see, like how the fuck are these clothes working? Like how did these people who just chop each other up, when did they learn like, oh, I don't I won't show my junk. Like my junk won't flop out in the middle of battle as long as I wear this leather belt and fur. like what the fuck is going on? Because I imagine the technology has to be so basic, you know? So it's almost like, yeah, it kind of just crisscrosses in the middle, but then everything else is kind of pretty much falling straight up and down. And then he has the cut, which means if he has wrinkles right here, that it is connected. I mean, maybe it isn't connected in the middle, but who knows? But yeah, this is all just to understand clothing. I mean, it's the exact thing that I was doing with the army stuff that I was just working on. I just want to understand the clothing. I never took a fashion course, and I've drawn clothed models, but obviously, clothed models of today are wearing like today's shit. I kind of know how like a t-shirt works. I know how jeans and pants work, and as common as we are, or as used to them as we are, like there's actually technology in apparel. As a someone who's made a living with graphic design and has uh, made apparel and actually clothing patterns and things like that. Like there's actually like knowledge and function and form that has to be like put together uh, for clothes. So I don't like turn my nose up at the fashion industry ever. Like I respect that shit because I mean to have fashion and to like do something with it. Like I know it might be funky or it might look it's like high end type shit, and then it's like closed off to like big people, so or plus size models or whatever you want to call it, just because clothes hang easier off of tall skinny people. Like if you look at fashion design sketches, like the people that they draw, um, the way that like anatomy is scaled is usually by head count, meaning you draw a head and then like let's say a baby would be 3 heads tall and then a child would be like 4 heads tall, equal, and these head sizes are the same, maybe. I don't know, maybe it's just according to the actual head size of the baby because the baby will have a smaller head than a grown adult. I mean, unless you're Rose from Resident Evil Village. That little baby had a big ass head. Well, whatever. And then like, you know, adults will have like a 7 head count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that would be like the size of like your average person maybe. But then like a superhero like Superman would have a head count of 9. So he'll just stand just slightly, like he'll just look a little bit bigger. Like he'll just be taller in that respects. But like fashion design, when fashion people draw their anatomy, they're drawing these motherfuckers like they have a 16 head count. Like they're just super fucking tall. So the head is way up here. Then they get these long thin necks, these thin ass bodies, and then these like fucking super long legs, and they're like aliens, you know? And they basically draw like that, so that way clothes can like kind of catch and hang off of the bones. You know, it'll catch on the collar, catch on the shoulders, catch on the hips, you know, things like that. And, you know, actually drape and create create a good hang for the folds and the clothing and things like that. I'm not a fashion designer. I don't know what the terms are, but you know what I'm saying? Where, you know, if you have a big person, like they're just going to squeeze into whatever you give them. You know what I mean? Nothing's going to hang on them. It's just going to stretch. So then it's going to form fit. You know what I mean? Which is why, you know, the fashion industry works the way it does. Everything's just going to form fit. There's not going to be any hanging of any sort unless you get like a really big, you know, something really big. But then at that point, you're using so much extra fabric. Then I don't know. I'm sure there's like a fashion designer out there, but it's not cost effective. I have to use 10 times the fabric for this model. Give me that skinny girl over there. But yeah, like I have a Bayonetta art book, and I love that fucking art book. And you could see, and it was for Bayonetta 1. It's a super rare art book, man. I spent like hella money on that shit, and it took me a long time to get the nerve to spend the money on it, because I was like, yo, this is gonna be like the most I ever spent for an art book before. But I mean, kind of was worth it. So yeah, maybe I'll break out that Bayonetta book, because it like I said, I spent so much money on it. Sometimes I just look at it for no reason. I mean, it beautiful artwork, so I shouldn't say for no reason. I look at it to actually appreciate the artwork and be like, yo, I spent a lot of money on this motherfucker. But like, but maybe I'll actually like break it out one day and like talk about it and things like that. That's something I've been wanting to do with this channel. It's just, you know, I'm an idiot, and the time and everything like that to go into actually doing stuff like that. I don't know. But either way, so we have something simple going on here, and this is like pretty easy to understand. Okay, so he has a belt going across. Maybe it's tied into a knot. Maybe he actually has a belt loop. You know what I mean? Um, so who knows? This is another one of a Indian type character or a Native American type character. So you know, he has like the chaps with this hangover cloth that continues past all this. And so he has the belt, this, and then that. So it's like, okay, there's 3 items. And then he also has another cloth on the back end to, I guess, cover his butt area. So it's just open for his legs on the sides. I just thought it was weird that this hangover starts right where this is, so it almost looks like it's connected. But then seeing this cloth behind the belt is like, oh, so this is going behind the belt and it's not connected to these pants. So, that might just be the artistic thing for a quick draw. You draw the body, draw the waistline belt, and then, you know what I mean? You just cut through and, oh, yeah, he's hanging that over the belt, over the front. So maybe that's how that works, but it seems pretty basic to me. And I don't know, this is drawing from, I don't even know how many years ago. He doesn't even have this dated. But the first one I did was from 1949. So I'm guessing this would be after that at some point. Maybe 1950 or something. But I wanted to get like some actual like girdles and belts and things like that. Like things that actually, let's hope that the technology on this apparel kind of goes up to something that I don't recognize. Like right now is like a whole lot of like Western stuff. And it's like, okay, I get it. It's belt and belt loops. Like I know how that stuff works. I know how like today's pants work. What's his face? Dead comic. What's his name? He always told those funny one-liners, man. Guy was so funny. God damn it, why am I blanking on his name right now? Tom, Todd, what the fuck is it? Died. Maybe it was a heroin overdose, I forget. Either way, he tells these silly jokes, and he has one joke where he goes, man, he goes, I got a pair of I got a pair of pants, and I put a belt on them so that the belt holds the pants up, but the belt goes through the pant loops, so the pants are holding the belt up. Man, which one's really doing all the work here? Because the pants are holding up the belt, but the belt is holding up the pants. It's like this weird relationship between belts and pants, and pant loops and belt loops and all that shit. So it's always a funny joke. Ever since I heard that, I always be thinking about it. I'm like, who the the idea that went behind that? Like, where did that come from? And it just makes me think of like this, of like, oh, okay, it was a string. He just tied a knot around the string, like he threw the cloth on, but the cloth isn't gonna hang itself on, unless this is like limbs from the animal, and then the limbs are tied in some way, like you just tied it like a double knot on the limbs or something like that. I guess that's how you can forget about the string theory that I have. But then it's like, what are all these parts of the animal? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know where the head is. There's no tail on this. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this, because on some of his sketches, he has like the tail of the animal hanging off the backside. So it's like, okay, if the tail's back here, then I know that the body is going one way or another. But I don't know if like I know the anatomy of an animal, and I understand the concept of skinning an animal, but it's like, what part of the animal is where? Like, what's this? What's all that? Like, is this the back? Is it the body? Like, it's definitely top side. It's not the underside of it. And every now and then you'll see one where the limbs hang off. Like, that's what I'll draw whenever I'm drawing these sort of things, these little barbarian skirts or whatever you want to call them. Is like, I'll draw the limbs hanging off just because it's cool to be like, yeah, this was an animal. Here's the paws, things like that. But yeah, it's oh shit, I didn't even see this one. This one's actually kind of cool. Too bad I don't know what the fuck it is. He has this one drawing of something underwater. Oh yeah, you can see it on the belt here. So, like this thing. So this guy's swimming around. It's clearly like a belt. See? Like you can see a belt with these little, this line being fed through it. So maybe it's like a leather belt with a string or a rope kind of line through it, tying it, holding it on, and then this belt he hunkers these leather straps to, but you see that these straps aren't like tied in. Like there's nothing tying these straps in. So unless they're like sewed in and connected that way, or just a continuation of the leather, like this leather piece and that leather piece is all one piece. Like maybe, I don't know. But that's what I mean. Like it's all so random. And I could draw a random. Like I could just draw it and be like, fuck it, that's just how it works. You know, take it or leave it. But I kind of want to understand. You know what I mean? I kind of, just like I did with the army stuff recently. I just want to understand. I want to see what's going on. I want to know what the thinking is. So there we go. So I could draw this. And here's this. Okay. There we go. So there's that, and then there's that. And same thing here. Here's this. And again, the waist is catching on the hips, catching on the obliques. This guy looks like he's wearing like a suit, you know. If you're looking at this, like you see these lines here, kind of suggesting he's wearing like a leather skin of some sort. So it certainly looks like it's on his legs, especially since you can't see his toes here. His feet are covered in something, almost like he's wearing like pantyhose or stockings or the lower half. Like he's wearing pants, you know? But yeah, his upper body doesn't have that same effect going on. So he's probably like bare chested or something, not wearing a shirt. But yeah, it's just weird that I guess, you know, when it comes to art, it just has to look dope, you know? It doesn't necessarily have to make sense unless someone wants to be an asshole. And you could present them with the dopest dope they've ever smoked, and then they just be like, well, how does it make sense? How are the pants tied up? And then it's like, oh man, can't we just have fun? Like, why has everything got to make sense? There we go. And yeah, man, he just finds like these beautiful patterns to have the clothes work off of the body. Which is, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, that's all I'm trying to do with all this study is try to find a pattern and then apply it to the knowledge that I have of anatomy. Like I could draw naked bodies all day, and then I could draw like basic clothing all day, like clothing as I understand it, clothing that I wear, you know what I mean? But clothing that I don't wear, like barbarian kilts and shit like that, like I don't know how that shit works, but I want to draw that shit in my world, in the story that I'm working on. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to draw. I was talking about like skinning animals and understanding animals and anatomy and not knowing what's going on. So, I mean, with the way that I kind of understand it broken down is think about a bear rug or just a rug in general when, a hunter or a trophy hunter like kills an animal and then they kind of keep the skin, like they don't taxidermy it, but they skin it. They probably ate the meat and then they keep the fur because it's, so they make a bear rug out of it or a polar bear rug or a tiger rug, where you could actually still see the animal. So yeah, the way that you kind of cut and quarter an animal, but you skin it first, is let's say you're looking at the underside, so you're looking at the belly of an animal. Now imagine like a cat. Here's the head, but you're looking at the underside, so kind of like the jugulars are here, so to speak, and then like the collars are here. Now imagine if that animal was jumping and lunging at you. Um, so it would have its arms going out forward, you know, claws out. Same thing. So the way that I kind of understand it, that you would skin an animal and like kind of like fashion it into a rug. What they got like the little toes over here, maybe some animals. They got like the dew claw, I believe it's called, something like that. Dogs definitely have it. Bears maybe have it. So let's say you're looking at the underside. Oh my God, did we lose focus? There we go. So let's say you're looking at the underside of a cat or just an animal in general. There's the snout. You can't see the ears because they're kind of out here or something. So the way that they would kind of cut and quarter to keep the pelt on it is you would kind of cut a Y here, kind of like where the jugulars are, how they create like a V. You cut that V. You want to keep the head intact. You don't want to ruin the head. So you open it up at the neck here, and then you kind of, just like a zipper, you unzip them. That's one way of putting it. So that way, you can start to peel it off, but then you have you have the limbs. So, and then you'd probably like quarter it here, just maybe at the tail a little bit. Maybe you don't even need to because this area is so small anyways. You probably don't even need to put like a little notch there, but maybe you do. I don't know. What do I know? I don't know shit. So, so then you also have the limbs, and remember we're looking at the underside. So this is kind of like the lighter fur on any animal, you know. This isn't like if this was a tiger, this is the white fur and not the tiger stripes. So like you would have tiger stripes kind of going down this way. This is a skinny ass tiger. I should have did like a cheetah or something like that and drew some spots on them. But either way, so same thing. The stripes are only on the sides here. They don't reach. There you go. So hopefully that kind of clears it up a bit. So you're looking at the underside, and you know all the bones are taken out, the meat's taken out. Yeah, so you zip it here at the belly. So this would be like the belly button. I don't think animals have like the belly buttons on them, but just to draw that. So here's like the chest area, and you know the ribs would be kind of like here-ish, and then the hips are kind of here-ish, and you know all the bones and everything. But because it's all laid out and sprawled out, like you wouldn't see any of that there. But just to kind of break down the anatomy for you. You know, the collarbone is about there. And then, yeah, chest muscles are here. And whatever, armpits. You know, basically, you know, that's what you're kind of looking at. So you zip it down the middle, but it opens it up. But then, like, how do you get the arms out? You know what I mean? They would also start to cut probably like kind of centering it out down here. So cut down the underside of your arm. Basically, like if this is, like you see my hand, so you can see like this is my arm. They would cut kind of center down the inside of your arm. So kind of like along the bicep, and then you know, here's like where your elbow bends. This is like where they would stick the needle in you for drawing blood or anything like that. And then they would stop at the paw and maybe even put like a little notch there. And then same thing with all the other limbs. You know, they would just kind of put one zip down the inside. And then same thing with the legs here. Probably just one zip. And then, oh wait, I didn't go all the way here. So that way you can take all the meat and the bones out from it. So yeah, it's just basically, you know, the neck cut, the body cut, and then the four limbs stemming out. So then you end up with this, you know, you could basically peel the skin off, take the meat, you know, use the bones for whatever you're using bones for. People make jewelry out of it. You can make tools out of it, things like that. And then you have this skin left over, and you know, depending on what the animal is, you know, you got some cool shit. And then you can like wear it. But that's what I mean. After they do this, and then they'll probably, you know, you could probably stitch like the limbs back up. Maybe, I don't know. Like I don't know what you would do with that skin afterwards if your intentions were to wear it as clothing. You know, if you were making a tiger rug or a bear rug out of it, I'm guessing, you know, maybe you would stitch it back up. You know, that's why you want to make the seam run down the anatomy in a specific way. That way your cut line kind of looks natural and it's not like cutting through anything funky. So that way when you stitch it back up, at least it's like running along the bicep muscle and down like the middle of the forearm muscles in between your major muscles in here. So that way it doesn't look funky when you sew it back up, because once you sew something back up, you're chewing away a quarter inch, half inch, maybe even a whole inch in some cases of fur or of the skin, I guess, in order for the seam to be put together. So yeah, so you would stitch it back up. You know, maybe you stitch the belly up again too. I don't know. Maybe they add something to it so that way they can kind of lay it out flat. Because if you ever seen like a rug, you know, you have the head here, and then like the animals there, and maybe the mouth is open or something. They probably have to taxidermy that, make it look ferocious, rawr, or something. And then you'll see like the break in the fur from the back side to the front side, and then you have like the tail here, And you have a leg, and then an arm, and an arm. So let's say it was the tiger, you would have all the stripes going on here, but maybe you still see the white underbelly portion of it on the outsides here, which would mean like they didn't stitch it up down the middle, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know what you do with this skin or with this fur once you cut it, you take the meat out, take the bones out, you take everything out of it, and then you go to wear it. Like obviously you have to treat it some way, get the blood off and all that stuff, make it last, make sure it doesn't just tear apart easily. But like that's the type of stuff that I don't understand when I look at something like this. It's like what part of the body is this? Because this is so common to us. Oh my God, we got blurry again. So like this stuff is so, we're so used to seeing it where it looks like a skirt slash underwear of fur, but it's like, how did you go from this to that? Did you split the animal in half and make two of them? Did it take the entire animal to put that together? Are the limbs being tied up in order to make this waistline? Did you have to use some string? Like, those are all the things that I don't know about. Maybe there's a book out there that talks about all these things, but I'll never know. Or maybe I will. Who knows? Maybe one day somebody will watch this and be like, hey, you idiot. Just go read up on something, 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 and you'll you'll get all your answers. Or go take a fashion course, you idiot. But either way, back to drawing this guy's butt. So you see, I come into this stuff with like a little bit of understanding of something, but it's like, man, I want to push it. I want to push it to the limit. I want to understand everything. You know what I mean? Because how else does somebody be able to draw everything as good as they do without understanding? Like, how does Frazetta get away with, you know, something like what I'm drawing now? It might be cheating. I don't know, because I don't see any stitching in between the leather. And maybe it's just because, this is so far away that you wouldn't be able to see the stitching on this clothing from that distance. But it's like, you know, like, why is shading stop here? Like, if this was all one piece, wouldn't it, like, kind of break that line, that waistline right here, and kind of, like, form into this belt area? So it kind of appears to be two separate pieces. So how are these two separate pieces put together? Does it matter? I don't know. All I know is like when I was doing the military stuff, if you were watching that, you see like I'm really trying to understand where all the straps are, how all the straps are strapping into one another and things like that, because oh shit, that's right. So there we go. So like I don't even know what these little things are hanging off the side. Like they appear to be holsters of some sort, since this guy's carrying a gun. You know, like it looks to be a holster. Like maybe I don't know. Like this is the flap over, and then like this part opens up. You can stick the gun in. I don't know. But hey, man, if this guy was able to to get away with all that stuff. Like if Frazetta was able to get away with all that stuff and be as revered as he is, maybe trying to understand this stuff is stupid. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. We'll find out together. Yeah, it almost like they're squids or something, which is super dope and hilarious. Oh, maybe that's the magic right here. These things, maybe they are squids, and maybe he is using them as holsters. Because it almost looks like there's like some legs coming off of them, attaching to them. That shit would be dope. Yeah. Plus, I'm trying to get a better understanding of all this anatomy. That's another reason why I chose to do like these Frazetta things. Drawing these waistlines will also help me kind of get around like the obliques and glutes and lower back muscles and things like that. Which I'm super struggling at right now. It's so hard to draw just like little bits of anatomy, especially if you don't quite understand them. Rather than like if I was drawing the entire figure here, it'd be a little bit easier for me to try to capture. But because it's like, oh, there's no beginning or ending to what I'm drawing right now. This is kind of all middle. It's a little bit difficult, man. And see, this is what I mean by the belt looks like it's different from whatever these things are hanging off of it, because look at the way the direction that these shade lines are going, and then the belt itself is going in a different direction. Just kind of gives the idea of like this is different. But whatever. See, even little things. This is what I mean by working with making clothes work with anatomy. So he has the glutes here, right? So you have like basically these kind of circular shapes, and then they create this little like crease above the butt crack, kind of like the bottom of a heart. And then here you have this little belt stuff, whatever this is, creating another circle, so that way the butt, the top of the butt here is going right into that, so there's no conflict. So design wise it just looks perfect. And then you have the belt, of course, coming in, kind of clashing with this circular motion, going with that one. It just works so well. And I need to kind of clean that up and get my sketch lines out of there. Yeah. Let's see, what else? What else do we have? And see, this is what I'm talking about. This is a little more obvious. Like looking at these drawings, like you have these guys here wearing these fur clothes. They look awesome. But then in there, you see these ropes being tied around them. This guy has it, this guy has it. Like you can see the rope going around a few times. Like that's what I'm talking about. That shit makes sense to me. I can imagine you just throwing a fur around your waistline and then tying a rope around it before it falls off, and then boom, you got yourself a little something something to protect your junk. But that's something that the first sketch that I did, this one here, like that doesn't have any of that. And maybe it's just because it's like not super detailed. You know, he's drawing it from so far away that you can't see it. But yeah, like this is gonna be awesome. Like drawing these things, but then even like all the energy coming off of it, that's another thing I want to see. Like this guy, like I said, he has a lot of nudes in this book, and he has like a lot of naked guys, and he's not like shying away from drawing these guys' junks. And what's actually like super funny about him drawing all these junks is that they look so good just because he includes the secondary animation. I don't want to show it because I don't know if that's going to get me in trouble on Twitch or not. But like there's a secondary animation because these things are swinging around. So it's like he's catching them in the middle of jumping, walking, running, or just standing there. And like if they're walking or running or jumping, you could see like the flop going with it. And it just reminded me of that day in college when I drew Ken Masters doing the hurricane kick. And And I drew the secondary animation of the flop, happening with the hurricane kick, and then my friend looking at me sideways, and I was now when I think about it, I was like, man, what's wrong with my friend, man? Like he ain't think like the Masters did that shit. uh, it just makes me feel like I was on the right track. That's all. Like I was on the right track, and here people are making me feel bad about it. So yeah, this is actually an interesting drawing. I was watching David Finch. He had a live stream earlier. He was drawing what did he draw today? He drew Cable from Marvel. And super dope. Super dope piece that he did today. And as I was watching him work on it, I've been watching him because I was like, man, he works so clean. Like his work is so good. There's a reason why he's as celebrated as he is. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the guy's amazing. So that's why I like to watch him work. You know, and I study it to see his process and see how he's drawing and when he's doing what. And it's not to like rob him and steal his style. Like I'll never do that. But um, there we go. So yeah, this is going that way, and then he has this, and then it's going that way. Okay. So he has this. Here's the bicep, and then here's the chest connecting. Okay. And then here's the shoulder and the chest here. And here are the delts. Damn, so if those are delts, that makes that the tricep. God damn, that's a strong bend that he has there. God damn, none of this terminology is working tonight after talking about junk and stuff. Oh, what a bend on that. Anyways, I guess all I'm saying is that I think it's hilarious how shy and how much people shy away when it comes to like just drawing the nude figure. Like as much as like life drawing is a part of learning anatomy and things like that, like when it I don't know, I feel like if you don't embrace it, you're gonna lose out on on being able to do everything else, including like clothes and drawing them with clothes on. Like, because the clothes is going to conform to the body. So if you don't have a good idea of the body, because afraid of you're afraid of wieners or something, then it's like, good luck. Not to say that you can't be successful, you won't, and you can't find success, but it's like, man, you're I don't know, you're not going to be able to find and explore all aspects of design and everything like that. Me personally, um, when I design things, because I have such a good understanding of anatomy, um, but such a shitty understanding of everything else, I like to apply my understanding of anatomy to everything that I design, regardless of what it is. Um, animate animate objects or inanimate objects, like it really doesn't matter. Oh, yeah, so let me get this guy's leg, and then so his chest is there, his body, like the shadow is kind of cutting across this way, so his body's kind of somewhere around here. There's like a hit smash effect going on, so it's kind of hard to draw around this smash effect. Oh man, let me see if I can get this a little more centered onto the screen. Sorry, I'm drawing all the way off in the corners. I'm all over the place here. So there we go. Oh, is that what's happening? I wonder. Like I'm starting to wonder how much of this effect that's going on is blood and how much of it is the fur. You know? Get this center line out of there now. Get this line out of there now. So here's one leg. Here's the other leg. And here's the knee. So I get that and that. Over here. Drawing over my tiger paw foot thing going on. That's okay. Just drawing slightly outside the box. You know, something that always shocks me, and I still don't have quite a clear understanding of with the anatomy and things like that, is no matter how much like legs are bent and things like that, the knees are still usually pretty much in line with one another, like distance wise, unless there's like extreme like foreshortening going on or something like that. For the most part, like knees are always kind of like aligned with one another, regardless of which leg is going in which direction. And it always surprises me. I don't know why. Like in this pose right here with this guy getting knocked off his ass and he's upside down and shit. Like he has one knee here and another knee right there. But his legs are kind of like bent and going in different directions and shit like that. Like his knees are touching and his toes are touching. Like but the legs are separated at the shin. Like he just has like this extreme anatomy going on. And it's like, god damn, the knees are in the same place. Like the legs are so bent and going screwy. Like how are they not? This isn't a study on legs, it's a study on the fur. So, is this going on? So if its chest is here, the shading is kind of here. That's another thing, the shadow is catching this guy kind of where the fur is crossing across his chest and things like that too. And since this is just a black and white image, it's kind of hard to catch where everything is exactly. Like in all the when in doubt, black it out areas. So there's its Adam's apple. There's that. And there's his bottom of his chin. And then there's his chin. And yeah. There we go. So yeah, I'm guessing this guy's wearing more of a fur that goes up to the shoulders as well, not just around the body. Go. Just shade all that in. And there's even the shade in the rock behind the guy, so it's like, man, between the rock, just the shade on the body, and then the black from the fur, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm getting lost. Getting lost in the sauce. Oh, shit. I fucked up. Come on, Drew. Oh, is that what's happening? That might actually make sense now. Well, when I do it that way, it makes sense. Okay, just fill this in. And okay. Oh, so what was I talking about with David Finch? So look at me getting lost. Well, I was talking about the black and white in this picture here, and looking at David Finch's stuff, and seeing how and when he starts applying like shadow and stuff. I've been watching him for a while, and I even made an attempt to try to do what he does because I'm using the same tool as him, and not to make that rookie mistake of thinking like, oh well, I'm using the same tool, I should be able to do the same thing. I don't want to do the same thing. I just want to do something that's just as has just as much quality, but in my way. Something that makes me happy. That doesn't look like his stuff, but you know, take the technique and then reapply it to fit,